Welcome into the Press Row Show, the #1 rated pregame, intermission, and postgame show. This side of the Mississippi, south of the Arctic Circle, north of the equator. I am intern Andrew. Russ is out with a 265-degree fever. It's unbelievable that he's still kicking, though. But it's just going to be me and Anthony today. I think Bundy has to do radio the whole time today.
So it's crazy. Everybody's sick all at once, right? So the story is, Russ is home with his hangnail. And he let us know pretty late in the day that this was going to happen. And, Bundy told me, no worries. I'll be able to, I'll just come out and, I'll take Russ's spot. No problem. So I was like, okay, no need to book a guest. Then we get down here, and Bundy walks into the studio where they do the pregame radio show, only to find that Jason Martinez is also out sick today. So he has to be in there for the entirety of the pregame radio, which means it's just me and Andrew.
So it's going to be a quick pregame. 10 minutes. 10 minutes, and then we'll get into Penn State football talk.
That's it, right? 10 minutes, and then it's on to Penn State. No. So what we'll do, and the way we'll make this work today is we'll do a little bit of a preview of the game tonight. Flyers and the Vegas Golden Knights taking the ice in about a half hour, a little over a half hour. But what we're going to do is we're going to turn it over to you. For those of you who are watching here on our YouTube page or on Twitter, thank you for tuning in. And we will answer your questions. That's what we'll do. We'll just sit here and answer questions for the majority of the pregame. If you're on Twitter, you actually have to click on the link or click on the video, kind of like it used to be back in the day with Periscope. You got to click on it and then type in your comment or question. Otherwise, you're talking to yourself. We will never see it. But if you're on YouTube, just leave it in the comments, and we'll take as many questions as possible. So on this improvised Press Row Show pregame, Flyers coming off of what a lot of people thought was a very nice comeback victory. I'm not with everybody on that, Andrew.
They won.
They won, and they won 3-2. Mishkov gets the overtime goal, and it's fantastic, right? That's all good, and that's exciting. And I don't want to take anything away from that moment because it's a really good moment for a young player who's growing into a star, right? So
I have a good stat about Michkov. Let me see if I can find it real fast.
Pull it up.
But this is the fifth and final game of the homestand right now.
Correct.
So you and Russ were both out for game one of the homestand, and then it was just me, Bundy, and Bill. And the magic number that Bill and I had was 6 points. Bundy had said 5. So right now they're sitting at 4. So I guess in Bundy's part, if the Flyers just make it to overtime today, then that was a good homestand. Would you agree with that?
I do. I agree that as long as if you're playing 500 hockey, you're in the playoff race. So as long as that's taking place, as long as that is happening, then it's fine. Yeah, you get 5 points. It's great. But I look at that game the other night or the other day. It was an afternoon game, and I say to myself, you shouldn't need to go to overtime and have a big rally in the third period to beat the Chicago stinking Blackhawks. You shouldn't. And I know that they had a lot of great chances. They were controlling the play for much of the game, and sometimes you have those hockey games. And I get it, and that was certainly one of them, right? But it would be a thing if that was just kind of like a one-off or happened once every 5, 6, 7, 8 games, whatever, fine. But it just seems to be that the Flyers are in that position every game.
I brought it up a couple games ago that they're one of the league leaders in third period tying goals, and it was like that's great in theory, but I would also like it if they weren't losing in the third period all the time. So I found the stat.
Go ahead.
Matvei Michkov scored the overtime winner for the Flyers and became the 8th teenager with multiple overtime goals. The others are Ilya Kovalchuk, Rick Nash, Sidney Crosby, Lucas Raymond, Clayton Keller, Cam Fowler, and Andrei Svechnikov.
Most of them are pretty damn good players.
Pretty good company, I would say.
Yeah, most of them are pretty darn good players. Absolutely.
Like we said, December 9th is his 20th birthday, so he has until then to get the another multi-goal game, so that would be him and Lindros, the only two Flyers teenagers in team history to have multi-goal
You're
games.
sticking with that one. You like that one.
That's one that's going in your AP story if it happens.
If it happens, it absolutely is going in the AP story. There's no question about it. So the Flyers get the Golden Knights tonight. No change to the lineup. Same 18 skaters that you had the other night for the game against Chicago. So that means no change with Jamie Drysdale's availability. He's still not available, which is I'm starting to find a little perplexing, because I was told his upper body injury was one that if it were important games at the end of the season or if they were in the playoffs is one you would play through. So the fact that he continues to be on IR and not playing is a little bit of a head scratcher. I got to wonder what exactly is going on there. So no changes to the lineup. Helge Grans is still in on the blue line with Nick Seeler on the third pair. So that's good for him. Look at Steve Coates. Look at Coates just walking by, just wandering by.
Not a care in the world.
Not a care in the world.
I think that this has been, or do you have anything?
Well, I was going to say there is one. The only change to the lineup is the goalie tonight is Ivan Fedotov.
Okay.
That is the one change to the lineup.
Do you think that's a good decision?
Well, I think that they have to keep playing both guys while Erson's out. You can't have one of them sitting because then once Erson comes back, whoever that person that's been sitting is only going to be sitting longer, right?
Yeah.
So somebody has to play. Kolosov got 2 in a row. I think it's you go back to Fedotov now. It makes some sense.
Okay, so I'll bring this question up because it's a question that I've been wondering myself. It's Owen Tippett. It's just I keep waiting for him to turn his season around, and he's just not. He's stuck at like 4 goals now, right?
Yeah. Mauricio, thanks for that question. What's going on with Tipp's performance? I got to think that that's the biggest of all the offensive concerns. If you want to break them down individually, Andrew, and look at the players and say, well, why isn't this guy scoring? Why isn't that guy scoring? That's the biggest concern to me because he's the guy that this front office identified as someone deserving a long-term contract.
He was my preseason prediction.
Right?
I thought that he was going to be the Flyers' representative at the All-Star
Okay,
game.
we saw a nice breakout from him last year. He missed a little bit of time. Otherwise, he may have been a 30-goal scorer a year ago. You kind of thought, all right, he's going to take. He got the new contract. He's going to take that next step, and just hasn't. And it's not been for lack of opportunity. He's had opportunities. The guy has just been just awful at getting shots on goal. He misses the net so much.
I asked Bundy about it post-game. I can't remember if it might have been the Buffalo game.
Okay.
When Buffalo had the net empty, and he had the puck in the offensive zone with a yawning cage in front of him, and he missed. And I asked Bundy, I was like, is there something going on with him mentally? And Bundy didn't seem to think so. He just thinks that he just needs to stop pressing and start playing more hockey.
Yeah, well, and that's what, and I guess that's an athlete's going to tell you that, right? That you get into those droughts where you're not doing something well. You hear it in baseball, when guys don't get a hit, right? They start trying to do too much at the plate. They start trying to swing for the fences. They overswing, whatever the case might be. And in hockey, it's the same thing. You hear the cliche is, oh, you're gripping the stick too tight, right?
Yeah.
It's the same cliche. And it's the same mindset, right? Like you are so pressing to get a goal that you try and do things that you wouldn't normally do, that you get out of your routine, even a little bit. And in this game, you get offline just a hair, and you're missing the net with your shots.
Game of inches.
Right? Exactly. So I do agree with Mauricio's question. I think it's a big concern. Because if this is a swing and a miss by Danny and Jonesy and this organization, then that's a bad miss because you locked him up.
Right?
Yes,
yeah.
You locked him up long term, and if he ends up being not worth that contract, you're going to be stuck with it, or you're going to eat some of it at some point down the line. Not now, obviously, but at some point down the line. So I do think that's the biggest concern for me on the offensive side of the puck.
Scott Bray, I think, had a good question here. The Flyers probably won't make the playoffs again this season. Are there any young players who you would like the Flyers to trade for, or are they just going to trade for picks?
That's a good question, and I will tell you that Danny is looking. First of all, we talked about this on the last episode of the Press Row Show. He's looking for centers. Like, there's no doubt that he's identifies that it's the biggest weakness of this organization. It lacks depth at the position. They don't have it at the NHL. They don't have them at the NHL level. They don't have them at the AHL level. They really, other than Jet Luchenko, don't have a prospect that they look at and say, this is a guy who we think is going to be a major contributor at the center position. And you can't win in hockey without centers, right? So the fact that they have 3 first-round draft picks, potentially, probably going to have 3 first-round draft picks next season, it tells me that while they may trade a guy for a pick or 2 picks here or there, like a veteran, like a Ristolainen or something, you're probably going to get a draft pick for him. I think that they might trade youth off the roster for other youth and try and find teams that are looking for something other than a center and maybe have a little bit of a surplus there, and they're willing to say, hey, listen, we have a guy who's fallen a little bit out of favor, maybe could use a fresh start somewhere else, and maybe you make a trade for that guy. And so I think that you're probably going to see Danny make both moves this year. I don't think it's just going to be just for picks or just for a prospect. I think you're going to see them trade for NHL caliber players at some point, but I also think he's going to trade for them.
But if you're lacking depth at the center position, why is everyone in a hurry to get rid of Morgan Frost? I never got that correlation.
Because Morgan Frost, there are elements to a hockey game that you have to play. And the way I always phrase it, and this may sound as stupid and as simplistic as it is, but remember, it's coming from me, so that I'm not going to. I don't have a very high bar. But the reality of it is, 50% of the time you play without the puck in a hockey game.
Okay.
All right, 50% of the time. Like the best puck possession teams, like Carolina, who we saw the other night, right? Great puck possession team. They have the puck 55% of the time.
Right. Okay.
And the worst teams have it 45% of the time. So on average, if you're a 500 team, you have the puck 50% of the time and don't have it 50% of the time. Well, the 50% of the time that the Flyers do have the puck and Morgan Frost is on the ice, you're expecting him to create offense. He has not done that this year. But you could settle for that. You could settle for the struggle if the 50% of the time that you don't have the puck, he's playing good defensive hockey.
Is he playing tonight or no?
Yes, he's in the lineup.
He is, okay.
He's never been a good defensive player. So that part of it is what ruffles the feathers. Now, are there teams who look at a guy like that and say, still young enough, still got some skill? You look at the situation, you say, all right, he's had his battles with Torts. Torts isn't an easy coach to play for. Maybe you bring him somewhere else and it changes, his dynamic a little bit. Okay, and they, maybe a team takes a chance on that. But the Flyers recognize that as well, and they're not just going to give him away, right? So they want to get something in return. So it's a matter of give and take. Maybe you swap a center for a center. Maybe you look at it and say, okay, we'll take on your guy who's struggling, and you take our guy who's struggling, and we'll see if we can both make it work and be a win-win.
There's a couple of people here that have mentioned they want Dylan Cousins from Buffalo. Do you think that they have the leverage to get someone like him here?
No, well, look, I mean, whenever you have 3 first-round draft picks, you have more leverage than anybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, in all honesty, you really do.
What picks are they? Do you know?
Their own. And then they have Colorado's, which will probably be later. And then they have, who am I forgetting? Who's the other first rounder they got?
I'll see if I can find it.
It was the last year from the Provorov trade.
Columbus?
Edmonton. They have Edmonton's first round pick.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, it was the from the trade last year when they traded 32, the last pick of the first round. Last year they had Florida's pick.
Okay.
And they traded it to Edmonton for Edmonton's first rounder this year.
And then the Drysdale-Gauthier trade, that was a second rounder?
That's a second rounder.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a second rounder. Yeah, so anyway, so they're probably 2 late firsts, and then their first will be a little bit higher. That's not to say that there's not players you can get with those late first-round picks, but, I mean, maybe you look and say...
I think they ended up picking like 17th last year, right? In the first round. What pick was Luchenko?
Luchenko was...
We were live during
They were 17.
Yeah,
17 or 18, something like that. So maybe you do. Maybe you look at one of those late firsts, or you look at that second rounder that you're going to get from Anaheim, and you say, that's something that we'll be willing to part. But you got to make sure that you're getting a player that is worth that.
Yeah, ideally you wouldn't.
No, but I'm saying
why wouldn't?
Well, because teams are crazy, right? There are teams that trade picks like they're candy. Like and you sit there and go, that guy is worth a first round pick. The Flyers got a first round pick for Sean Walker. For the Colorado Avalanche to get 25 games out of him?
Yeah.
They got a first round pick for him. The Flyers got a first round pick for Florida. I mean, Giroux's a great player, but he only played 24 games for Florida?
Because they figure they're a team that's built to win right now.
Yeah, I get it.
So they're going for it. I actually respect the aggressiveness.
Well, I do too, but teams sometimes they overcommit that, right? That they sell off those first round picks. So if you're a rebuilding team and giving up a draft pick, you better darn well get a player that's worth it. Right.
Yes. I asked Bill about that the other day, actually. He because I had asked him if the Flyers could do it over again, would they instead extend Walker and then trade Sealer? And he said that you probably wouldn't get first-round value for Sealer. So maybe it was the right decision. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're not going to get a first-rounder for Nick Sealer. Do I think Nick Sealer could have gotten him, say, a third-round pick the way he played last year? Sure. But if you had to decide between the two, Danny made the right call.
Yeah, but then the other thing I would argue is that the defense has looked very bleak without Walker since then.
Well, it has, but I also think there was a correlation with the goaltending as well.
Also that.
Yes, I mean, so that's the big thing of it all, right? I mean, we don't talk about it much, but Carter Hart situation, him not being here and turning over to Urson, who's probably more a 1B than a 1A.
Yeah, I think
right?
he probably played a little bit more than he was supposed to last year.
Well, certainly,
yeah.
Right? Certainly. And so, he's more of a 1B, and then you got two guys who you knew nothing about at this level in Fedotov and Kolosov. And, look, Fedotov's older. He's been okay since the first three starts. Kolosov, in my mind, is still not quite ready for prime time. I think he will be at some point, but he's not there right now. These guys are playing, and you're giving up 3.5 goals a game as opposed to last year when you were giving up less than 3. That's a big difference. It makes the defense look bad too, right? I mean,
yes.
So I think that's part of it.
Let's get to this question from Tony Louie. I think this is a good question. We've seen this organization really overvalue mediocre players because they're, quote, important to the culture. Do you think Briere carries that same mentality, or is he actually going to move guys?
So
now?
there's a I think that it's a little bit disingenuous to classify every player that they hold on to as important to the culture for the same reason, right? I give you an example, like Eric Johnson. Not to say he was going to be of any value, but I'm just looking at why did you sign Eric Johnson, bring Eric Johnson back? Eric Johnson serves a real purpose as a veteran defenseman in that locker room, showing these younger guys how to be good pros that are playing at this level. So you're in that regard, you're sitting there going, okay, I understand that. And, Scott Lawton's a leader in that locker room. And, we've reported, and Russ likes to cling on to it, that the Flyers were offered high draft picks for Lawton.
Well, he just loves trades in general.
Yeah, and they turned it down. He insists that he knows what it was, but we don't. We don't know. I don't know.
It's not verified.
It's not verified, right? So, but we know that he was offered they were offered a high pick that was turned down.
Do you know from who?
A couple of teams. The Rangers, for sure, last year were one that was interested in adding him. And I still think that there are teams that are ready to win a Stanley Cup or feel like they're ready to win a Stanley Cup. Look at a guy like Scott Lawton and say, adding him to our team will make us better in the postseason. Because he's a veteran, he's responsible, he's going to play like his life depends on it because he wants to win, right?
He deserves it.
Yeah, there are things like that. There are guys teams value that in the sport. I know fans have a hard time sometimes, organizing that in their thought processes to saying, well, the future value is worth more than the current, locker room culture thing. It is ultimately, but there is something to be said for the culture thing as well. Because if you don't ever learn how to play the right way, you're the 76ers.
Oh boy.
Okay? You're the 76ers, where you maybe have good seasons, but don't know how to get it done when the going gets tough in the playoffs.
They still haven't made it past the second round.
Still haven't made it past the second round. Yeah, and now they're 3-13, right? With a lot of money tied up in aging, injured players. So the reality of it is that these guys sometimes do have value, and you may not recognize what that value is until 5 years from now when they're not even here any longer. But when you have your best players 5 years from now come out and say, you know what, I learned how to do things the right way when I was in the locker room with Scott Lawton.
Yeah.
I hear it all the time from players talk about who the guy was for them, and you sit there and go, oh, really? That guy was just a mediocre player.
Do they say it about Lawton significantly more than they say about Couturier?
Well, I don't necessarily know that anybody's saying it right now.
Oh, okay.
What I'm saying is that 5 years from now,
Okay.
your star player, like maybe Jet Luchenko, when he's 28 and he's at the All-Star game, and somebody says to him, "Hey, Jet, like who was so important for you in your your younger years as a young player in the NHL?" Maybe he'll sit there and go, "I learned everything I needed to learn about how to be a pro by watching Scott Laughton." Who knows? I mean, maybe he doesn't say that at all. But the reality of it is there are a lot of those that come up, and you sit there and go, "Huh, I never would have thought that guy was so important to the development of a really good player." And yet it happens all the time in sports. And so that's why teams value that. And they value it more than saying getting a draft pick where you don't know what you're going to get with that draft pick.
So who do you think that guy was for Laughton then when he first got here?
That's a good question. I mean, he's been here such a long time. Man, that's a great question. I would have to ask Scotty. I don't know. I don't know.
He got called up here in like 2014 or 2015. Maybe like
15, I think, was his first year.
Voracek, maybe?
I don't necessarily know if Voracek was the guy that he kind of tried to model his game after.
Well, he was a veteran in the...
Yeah, but and Voracek was not the guy that you wanted to follow for doing things the right way as a pro. Voracek was out of his mind. He was great. He was a blast to cover, but he was not always doing things, in the right professional manner.
Do you remember that video of him where he was schnockered at a Springsteen concert with Radko Gudas?
Tremendous singing.
Yeah.
Singing. Like Goody's a good example. Like I bet there are young defensemen who look at Radko Gudas and go, "Yeah, he's a guy that I learned a lot about the game from." And you look at Radko Gudas and say, "Well, how good of a player is Radko? He's just a guy." But he wears a letter now, and there's a reason, and he's looked upon as a leader because of that element that he can bring to a team. So,
so I think we got to figure out who it was for Laughton, and then ask him who it was for him, and like we could do it all the way back to Adam and Eve if we do it right.
We're going to do 6 degrees of Scott Laughton. Yes. Is that what we're going to do?
Yes. Let's get to this question. My loyal friend Ryan Cornelius had one, and I lost it. Oh, here it is. Why can't the Flyers commit to the tank? I'd rather have a clear direction moving forward rather than being stuck in purgatory.
Because you can never tell players to lose. You can never tell players to lose. And it's not, and that's number one, first and foremost. So you can't tell players and coaches that you're going to lose on purpose. So that can't happen. And then you sit there and go, well, just go really bad, get really bad players.
It seems like it's a lot easier in basketball, doesn't it?
Well, that's number two. Number two is that the sport of hockey there's a lot of parity. You don't have the dominance that you used to have and the separation that you used to have. I mean, just look at the standings right now. And I know it's early. I know it's not even Thanksgiving yet. But like, how many teams are really buried right now? One?
You want to pull them up?
Two? I mean, I'm not even certain that might even be true. Like, I think that the worst teams are probably still within 6 to 8 points of a playoff spot right now. Like, they're not getting completely lambasted.
Do you want to look at them or no?
Yeah, pull it up if you want to pull it up. Sure. And then the third thing is, in hockey, how long does it take when you commit to a tank? And I've had this argument for years and years and years with people. Look at the teams that have done it and how long it took them to win. Colorado had to do it twice. They did win eventually, and yes, they got a bunch of top players. But they had to tank twice to get there. It took them over 10 years exactly, I think it was. And who's
took Edmonton forever.
Edmonton still hasn't won. They got to the final. They still haven't won. Like, this is my point. It's not a harbinger. It's not an automatic harbinger of guaranteed victory. It's just not. For the 3 or 4 teams that have done it successfully, there have been twice as many who have failed. And so, I don't know, do you look at it and say 33% of the time is better, is what you want? That you may fail 67% of the time and have to do it all over again a second time and keep doing that? That's not good, man. And it's a bad precedent to set for players because you get into a mentality of losing. So, that's my response to it. And people are going to sit there and say you're old and, it's not the way of the world anymore. But I disagree. I don't find tanking as a real path forward. You got to get really lucky when you tank.
Yeah, I mean, Buffalo.
How'd they do? How have they done?
Yeah. So I asked the question to Bill and Bundy. The Sabres tied for the active longest playoff drought in American professional sports. You know who they're tied with?
In American professional sports,
Yeah, the Big Four.
Longest playoff drought. That's a good question. What was the last year they were in the playoffs?
It was when they played against us in 2011.
That long?
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know. 2011. I got to go back. What sport?
The NFL.
Really?
Yeah.
Dolphins?
No. Dolphins were
No,
just
they were
in it last year.
they were in the last year. Jets?
The Jets.
Jets. It had to be AFC East because the Patriots were so dominant for all those years.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
By the way, that picture that I texted you the other day, what do you want to?
You have it?
Yeah.
I told Russ to have it ready to go up. I wanted to pull it up.
I might have to tweet it to pull it up that way.
Yeah, well, then do it intermission. We'll do it during intermission.
Okay.
Yeah, get it ready for intermission.
All right. That's fine.
Yeah. Well, that's a funny picture. Because I got to yell at Deirdre for that photo.
What are you yelling at her for?
Because there was something wrong with the photo.
There was?
Yes.
Well, she didn't take it. She wasn't there.
She had nothing. She didn't dress you that day?
No, I dressed myself.
At 10? I'm impressed.
You don't think I dressed myself at 10 years old?
I wonder if you dress yourself now.
This is a nice Flyers polo. What is wrong with this? What pick? No, absolutely not, Bennick.
No.
Absolutely. How dare you, sir?
No.
How dare you?
It's not that photo.
That was. We were all scarred by that, by the way.
Yeah, let me pull this one up while you're thinking about it. Dave Wallace with a good question. He says, is Mishkov destined to be our number one center, or you think he is yet to be drafted? I will tell you that the answer to the first part of that question is no. I don't think he's going to be a center. I don't think that his game translates to that position. I think he's right where he belongs and right where he needs to be. And there's going to be some screw-ups, defensively. He's going to make mistakes. Those things are going to happen. As Tort said the other night, we knew it was going to be a gong show at times. That's what he said. But you don't let you
Just
don't
be careful when you're quoting Torts on the show.
you accept that because you know what he's going to do offensively. But I think there's just too much responsibility for the position at center, and you need to be a little bit more of a playmaker than he is. That's not to say he's not. He is a good playmaker, but that's not what his instinct is. His instinct is to score. His instinct is to be the best player on the ice, best offensive player on the ice. And so I think that I don't think he's the number one center. As far as where is the number one center going to be, it's not here. They're not that player's not here yet. Whether it's drafted or acquired, I don't know, but that player's not here. Although I do think that Luchenko is probably going to be a little bit better than maybe everybody originally thought he was going to be. And I think that there's a chance that he becomes like a really good number two center.
Did he end up getting traded from Guelph or no? Because I thought that was rumored for a little bit.
No, not yet.
He didn't. Okay. Greg Mack with a this is very, very bold take. Michkov's game is similar to Ovechkin.
I see why he says that. It's like I would call it Ovechkin light. Like I don't think he's going to be that good of a goal scorer. But he does have that knack for getting to the spot where you score from and getting a shot off and finding a way to score goals. I think he's looks a little bit more like Kucherov to me, the way he plays. But
I'll take that too.
Yeah. Oh, sure. But I don't quite think he's Ovechkin.
By the way, did you see the pace that he was on early this season? Ovechkin was unbelievable. Like he was going to pass Gretzky this year.
Yeah, and then he got hurt.
He got hurt. That was you didn't think that was a dirty play, did you?
No.
Knee to knee? I didn't think so either.
No.
But Capitals fans were understandably irate at that, though.
Well,
that's too bad.
I'm not surprised.
That is too bad, though. I do as much as I hate their fans, I actually do like some of the players.
Speaking of injuries, Carolina has got a real problem in goal right now. Both of their goalies are out long term, and for a team that is, considers themselves a cup favorite, they've got to fix that quick.
Probably.
I wouldn't be surprised if they go out and make a move for a goalie and do so soon. Like, really soon.
I had my aunt is asking me if we coordinated our outfits. We did not. Believe it or not, I was not texting Anthony earlier today asking what he was wearing today.
Why do we have coordinated outfits? I'm wearing gray. He's wearing black.
I don't know. I guess it's...
He's wearing a Flyers gear. I'm wearing a sweater. I don't know how coordinated that is.
Vineet Singh. Because Martin H. is re-signing Carolina in 2 years. He could be our number one center.
I mean, people have been asking about him for 2 years now. And I get it. I understand why. Like, look, we all want to play fantasy hockey in a way, right? Like, we all want these good young players to want to come here in some way or trade for them, figure out a way to trade for this guy, figure out a way to trade for that guy, or, sign them when they're a restricted free agent and give up future draft picks. Like, do all that stuff. I know Carolina's ownership is a little bit tight with the money, and I think that there's a chance that he can walk. But I don't necessarily think that you're automatically going to say, oh, yeah, Philadelphia is the destination that I'm going to. If all the other teams have an opportunity, just as equal opportunity, he's going to pick the one that's the best chance for him to win.
Well, in that scenario, though, I would imagine he would just re-sign in Carolina then, right? They're one of the best teams.
Well, yeah, but again, there is a little bit of money that comes into play, right? I mean, and if you don't value your players to the point where you don't want to sign them to big money, well, that could be a thing too. By the way, another bit.
Okay, he said they have big money tied to Aho's, Svechnikov, and Seth Jarvis already.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. The other interesting news around the league since we were on last is Jim Montgomery wasn't out of work long.
St. Louis.
Flyers get to see him again on Saturday. That's pretty interesting.
Are you surprised that he got fired?
I'm not surprised he got fired. I'm surprised he landed a new gig so soon.
I don't know that I've ever seen that happen before.
Well, I'm sure it has. I would have to think about it, but
hold on.
It was really, really quick. Oh, Bundy's here. Good to see you, pal.
Good to see you too, buddy.
Everybody's
sick tonight.
Yeah,
Jason Martinez is sick over on radio, and there we go. Hi, everybody.
Good to see you.
Yeah,
We've been doing some just like answering some questions from the fans today. Nothing really crazy. Same lineup for the Flyers tonight against a very tough Vegas team.
yep.
And Fedotov in net.
Yep.
I think that we started off talking about like how people were pretty excited about the win the other night, but I try to temper that a little bit, Bundy, when I said it shouldn't take a late third period rally and an overtime power play goal to beat the stinking Chicago Blackhawks.
I could not agree more with you. Like, everyone was celebrating the win. Like, first of all, that's the worst team I've seen in the NHL this year. It ain't even close.
Yeah.
Chicago, they were so horrible, and to muster up a comeback against that mess, like, let's temper it a little bit. That's the way I'm looking at it. Like, don't get too hyped up over that win. You should have been up 5-0.
Yeah, look, I'm not trying to take anything away from Mishkov because look, for him as a player, you get that overtime game-winning goal that builds confidence. That's great for him. That's awesome, and you should be excited about that. But it shouldn't take until 10 minutes left in the game against the worst team in hockey to finally get on the board.
I totally agree. It was a frustrating game, and I was thinking to myself too, like, why you can't keep chasing hockey games because you're just not going to. Like, you get down 2-0 to a really good team like a Vegas or one of these teams, you're not going to come back. It's just too much to do it on a regular basis, and it feels like the Flyers in a lot of ways have been playing catch up for about a decade. Doesn't it? Like, where they're down and then they come back and they do get some chances, and I'll give them credit. Like, they stay with it, but man, they don't have to make life so hard on themselves.
One of the questions we got from one of the viewers early in the press row show today asked about Owen Tippett. What do you think is wrong there, Bundy? And I expressed concern that this one is one to really look at with a lot of red flags because it's the first big contract that Danny and Jonesy and this group handed out. Like, do you just chalk it up to saying, hey, it's a rough start to a season for the kid? Or do you look at it and say he should have been a 30-goal, should be a 30-goal pace?
We're going to the Anthem, and I'll answer that question, but I think the problem is he's not scoring, and he's never had to deal with being in a slump himself. And so I think that is part of the problem where if you look at the goals he scored, 2 of them were seeing eye shots.
Yeah, I know.
Like, they weren't even good goals. Like, the goalie should have had them. That's 2 of his 4. Did he have an empty netter one night, maybe?
Yeah, that might have been. I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean, he's just – what happened is with a guy, he had some success last year. He got paid. Now he's not scoring, and I think he's in a slump, and I think he's doing and pressing to do things he's not used to doing.
All right, we got to roll.
Right.
We will see you at intermission. Russ put the picks out on Twitter.
Yes.
Find them there.
All right. Talk to you in a little bit. We are back in the Press Row Show. The boys are buzzing. The boys are buzzing. Rasmus Ristolainen with the goal.
No, it was not.
Oh, wasn't him?
The first thing you got to do is know who scored.
Who was it?
It was Morgan Frost.
Morgan Frost.
Why did I think it was him?
Because we all did.
Because he shot the puck and Morgan Frost directed it.
Oh,
It was a tip-in.
Okay, I'm fired. Tippett got an assist. So
He got a secondary apple. Yes, he did.
He did. All right. And then
Coots.
And Couturier, the captain, with another goal. Flyers end up with 2 goals on their first 5 shots in this game. Dream start to the game for the Flyers, even though I got
Well,
the
I
goal
wouldn't call it a dream start, but it was a good start.
It's 2-0.
Yes.
That's actually a dream start for the Flyers.
Yeah.
Against Vegas, yeah. I mean, Vegas has got some really key injured players out of the lineup.
Yeah.
And the Flyers have taken advantage of that. Alex Pietrangelo and Mark Stone, they're two, probably besides Eichel, they're 2 most key players. So, I mean, that helps. Vegas was favored in this game today, 140. And then they also lost William Karlsson before the game tonight, too. He's not dressed tonight either, so the line went down to like 135. I don't pay attention to that much, but I thought that was a little strange that you thought Vegas should have been higher, right, Anthony?
Well,
if they were healthy, they probably would be.
Coming off of a big win in Montreal, 6-2. Like, Flyers aren't much different of a team than the Canadians. Maybe
Similar.
Similar. A little bit better, I'd say, but
Yeah.
not significantly so. And I sit there and say, okay, the Flyers just scraped one out against a bad Chicago team. If I'm setting the line, I'm probably setting that line a little bit higher. So I was a little surprised by minus 140 when I saw it.
Did you place a wager?
I did not.
No.
I don't bet.
I don't bet much either.
I get people ask me all the time what I think, and
I'm with you on that.
I'm happy to give advice, but it's free. I'm not charging for it.
You don't get a cut of the winnings?
Never.
Okay.
I have
That's
a guy.
classy.
I got
That's
to tell you,
classy.
I have a friend of mine who I've known for many years, who is as degenerate a hockey gambler as there is. And I will say that I've probably made him a good amount of money over the years. And every year he promises me like a steak dinner. And every year I don't get it. And I still provide the service.
Wow.
Not good. I do have a little bit of an update on something that we were briefly talking about last show. Frank Saravalli reported on the radio in Canada, I think it was in Vancouver, that the Jiricek trade is imminent and could come down as early as tonight. What I can tell you is it's not the Flyers.
It's not.
That's
Not the
disappointing.
Flyers.
That's disappointing. There's going to be a lot of people in the chat that are upset about that.
If the other day I was told Minnesota was the team that really seemed to make a lot of sense. And then it seemed like yesterday Nashville kind of got involved in the conversation. I don't know if it's one of those 2 teams or somebody else, but I can tell you, not the Flyers.
Something's going down soon, though, apparently, right, Anthony? Based on what Frank said, Saravalli?
Frank said it could happen as soon as tonight.
Okay.
So, and Frank's a hell of a reporter, so I will trust that report. But it's not going to be the Flyers. So, anyway, that was just something to throw in there.
Thank you, Beach Hill
Well, at least they're
Aquatics.
kicking tires. I mean, you have to be in the game looking.
Yeah.
And even if maybe it doesn't make the most sense for you, but you're in on it and you want to see what's out there. So good job by Danny and them at least looking at what's out there and to try to make the team better based on what their prospects are.
Yeah, no, I mean you're always trying, right? But we know he's hell bent on getting a center, but when you look at a prospect like Jiricek, you sit there and go, that would be a nice addition.
It sure would.
I'll try and get that kid, and that looks like it's not going to happen. But hey, it's okay.
I'm in this belief right here, though. This is the one again. Why would a guy who just got picked was it 2 years ago? Not even, right? Or was it 2 years?
2 years ago.
Yeah.
He's 20 years old, right? Yeah.
So again, I always wonder what would be in a guy. It's got to be more than a malcontent because. I mean, if you're a malcontent and you're 20, there's got to be a way to be able to work with a guy at that age. I mean,
the Flyers ran into that a year ago, didn't they?
No, they sure did.
He was drafted 6th overall in 2022.
Okay. Yeah.
Someone asked here, does Torts hurt you in trades? No. Yes, absolutely. There's no unless you're trying to get a guy that has to waive his no movement to come to the team. But I don't think the Flyers are in that situation quite yet. My biggest issue with Torts was probably in the summer for free agency, where you're trying to get a high-profile guy, and if it's a guy that's had a lot of success already, he's going to decide whether he wants to come in and deal with that kind of a coach. Nothing against Torts. It is what it is. It's already baked into the cake, but that's what certain players would look like when they're looking at it more from a free agency standpoint. A trade like this, no impact on the player at all. He's got to come into his new team and play.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there, where that goes, if it actually does come down at some point tonight, maybe tomorrow, but not going to be the Flyers.
There are still some people that are hell-bent on getting Trevor Zegras here. Do you know that is Anaheim actually going to move him at this point? I feel like they would have done it already.
Well, I think that last year there was probably a higher price tag for him than teams were willing to pay. This year, I could see that number coming down because he's not having another good year this year. Everybody thinks, fans, I think a lot of fans think he's a center. Anaheim's moved him to the wing. They don't like him up down the middle right now. That doesn't mean he can't be a center. Certainly can. But if the team is moving him out of that position and playing him somewhere else and he's still not having success, I mean, it could be a change of scenery guy, but it's been a bit since he's been productive. It's been a couple years since he's been productive. So.
Remember since they put him on the front cover of that NHL video game.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Craziness. Absolute craziness. All right, Andrew, normally we have to pull you up on screen at this point.
Yes.
But tonight we don't, since you're filling in for Russell.
That is correct.
It's time for the stat of the game, or stat of the night, whatever we're calling it.
So Joel Farabee is getting very, very, very close to getting his Ironman streak to 200 games. I believe tonight will be 196 for him. I actually thought that would be a little bit higher on the active list. That makes him 23rd among longest active Ironman streaks at 196. Number one, this blew my mind, is Brent Burns at 863 games. He hasn't missed a game since November 21st, 2013, which is pretty wild.
That whole consecutive game streak, get back to me when he gets to 500. Because Farabee, you know what? After we went through a couple of years ago with the Phil Kessel, and remember they flew him out. He had something wrong, and they put him on a private plane to make him. That wasn't real.
Right.
There was nothing real about that. I mean, it was just to try to preserve a guy's game. So, Doug Jarvis had it forever, right? 986 or something, and then now Keith Yandel. Didn't Keith Yandel break it?
Yandel broke it here, right? And then what's his name passed him.
And then and the nights he was playing I mean, they were putting him in at the time he was here on this team just to get the record.
Yes.
I mean, he'd have been in the press box most every night on any other team.
Yeah, and then Kessel passed him. So Kessel has the record currently. At least Brent Burns is still a productive player.
Was there and that is your stat, Andrew?
Yes.
Okay.
Stat of the night. It's a good one.
863. I would have thought it was way lower than that. That's actually very impressive.
You know who else has a streak going?
A streak? No, what?
A streak that's going to be 29. I'll give you a streak, 29 on Wednesday. 29. Intern Andrew's birthday.
The consecutive years lived.
29 consecutive years on the planet.
Wow. Still just a pup until he turns 30.
I know.
29. Happy early birthday.
I appreciate that.
To
Happy birthday, Andrew.
Intern Andrew, since we won't be together on Wednesday. The team will be in Nashville on Wednesday night. So we won't see you until Friday. So just in advance, happy birthday.
Remember you pulled me up on screen last year?
Yes.
I was totally taken aback by that. I had no idea that was coming. I was pretty rattled. If you go back and watch the tape, I was pretty rattled.
Yeah, I got to remember, your mother always reminds me of these things.
He does, yeah. Thank you, Mom.
Your mom. You should always thank your mother.
Now, that game, ironically, I kept my media credential because it was the first time you ever put me on the air. That game was against the Carolina Hurricanes.
Was it really?
So should we segue into...
Yes. Bundy, we talked about this a couple games ago. You might remember this, or maybe it was last game, when Andrew talked about taking a picture with the Stanley Cup in North Carolina.
Yep.
I have to ask a question because he says he dresses himself at age 10. I don't believe it. And I got to question Deirdre's motives with this gear.
He's like 12, isn't he?
He was 10 in this photo, and he's going to pull it up on the screen. in just a second. It's a photo of Andrew at age 10. First of all, it looks nothing like him. Like I have a hard time. Like I looked at him like that's not the same kid. He's going to put it up on the screen in just a second. You'll see the picture. There you go.
There's the cup.
Yes, where Andrew's hiding behind the table.
There's a beautiful cup.
There he comes.
There it is.
Yeah. Is that a violation for Deirdre?
Nah.
To have him wear the Hurricane shirt and the Flyers?
Dude, why are you not? You should be hugging the cup.
It was a Hurricanes celebration thing, so I had to wear something Carolina. But if my fandom is ever called into question, I was still repping the brand. Despite the fact that the Flyers lost in the first round that year, I still had the Flyers hat on.
Okay.
So if you cut me, I still bleed black and orange.
Okay, fair enough. Now I got to ask about the wristbands.
I actually don't remember that at all.
The black and the blue, they don't even match.
That was my most questionable wardrobe decision that day. I have no...
maybe he was playing tennis. He was coming from the courts.
I have no idea what was going on with that. By the way, if I gave you guys a million guesses, I don't think you would ever guess the name of the player that's on the back of that shirt.
On the back of... So this is what year again?
2006 Hurricanes.
2006 Hurricanes.
I'm going to say it's the goalie. What was his name?
Cam Ward?
Cam Ward.
No.
Okay. Well, then I don't have another guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pass.
It's Kevin Adams.
Kevin Adams.
Yes.
He's doing a heck of a job in Buffalo.
You played against him, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
First Hurricanes game that I ever went to, it was like Kevin Adams poster giveaway night or something like that, so he became my favorite player, briefly.
All right. Well, there we go. Intern Andrew at age 10.
Adventures of intern Andrew.
See what happens when we don't have Russ here? I like Russ Light sometimes better than Russ OG.
Kind of like, yeah, I like this because you get Russ up here and then he starts to try to take over the show, point the light on himself. And, we don't roll like that.
That's right, we don't. We don't roll like that. All right, we got 5 minutes left here at the first intermission before the second period.
Flyers checking has been great.
It has been good. It really has. And... Vegas had a couple chances there, like towards the end of the period, but the Flyers are pretty good at getting the puck and getting it out and getting it down the ice again.
They transitioned well. I don't think Vegas made a lot of great plays in the neutral zone. The Flyers went back in transition multiple times. Another thing too, shoot the puck. There's nothing wrong with taking those shots they've taken. They've paid off a couple times. They've almost paid off another after that. Hill looks like he's guessing a little bit. It was a good period. It was a very good period for the Flyers, and I want to see them continue putting their foot down and taking a step forward again in this game. This is not the same Vegas team without the skilled players that are missing from their lineup tonight, and a good defenseman and a great defenseman like Pietrangelo. So the Flyers, I want to see them continue doing a really, really good job in this game because this is the kind of game that'd be a good staple to start off the rest of the week.
Yeah, because it's a tough week, Bundy, right? I know Nashville has not been the team people expected them to be, but it's still not easy to fly down there the night before Thanksgiving, play that game, and then, quick turnaround, come right back home for a holiday, and then you have to play the Rangers, and then the next day get back on the plane, fly back to the Central Time Zone and play the Blues. That's a brutal schedule, 3 and 4 like that. So, this is kind of an important game in that regard.
It absolutely is because it sets the tone for the week, So you get a good win against a good team. Doesn't matter who's in or who's out because the Flyers will look at it from a standpoint like, hey, we've really done an excellent job to start the week. And then you can go down to Nashville, a team that's been reeling since the beginning, and try to get up another win. But it starts tonight. They need 40 minutes left here in this game. Long way to go, but certainly the first 20 minutes.
And a great comment here from Ryan. He says, I expect better effort from Vegas in the second. They will push back. That's what they did against Montreal the other night,
yep.
Right?
They scored 5 in the second period. So Flyers period that's not been their best this year, they're going to have to be on top of their game here in the second period. 2-goal lead is nothing in this league anymore, and they're going to have to really make sure they're doing a good job defensively because I thought the Flyers had an excellent defensive period in the first period.
They really did. They really did.
It's the most dangerous lead in hockey, 2-0.
No, and now they say 3-0. Used to be 2-0. Now they say 3-0.
Yeah,
because
it keeps getting bigger.
A little bit more offense in the game. All right. Well, we will be back in the after the second period for the second intermission.
Real fast, Bundy. Do you agree with Beach Hill Aquatics here? Do you think that Fedotov plays like Roman Czechmanic?
No. I mean, a couple plays he's been down and out, and he's laid on his back and sprawled and made those saves, but Czechmanek was one of those awkward acrobats, and I tell you what, playing defense for him, it was a difficult task. He never knew what he was going to do. Every save he'd make, it wasn't just routine. He'd have to like spin backwards, throw his glove up in the air, and a lot of the times he'd make the save. Terrible puck moving goalie. Never listened to the defenseman.
Jeez.
Strange bird.
Not a good communicator, eh?
So he's probably not a big fan of this show.
He's
Roman
deceased.
Czechmanek's most
Oh, that's
famous.
right.
If you ask Roman what they'll most remember Roman Czechmanek for, will be when the playoffs started and we found out he had a trip to go back home to his native country 7 days after the playoffs started.
So he didn't want to change the trip?
He thought the regular season was over and the playoffs just didn't they were no big deal. You just go and your season's over. So he booked before the playoffs started, he booked a flight home for the end of the year, a week after we started game 1. Good stuff, man. As I could tell you, boys, the playoffs didn't work out quite too well that year.
Yeah, was that the 8-0 loss at the end?
I don't know. No, it wasn't. I think it was before the year before that.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
Yeah.
good stuff, huh, boys? That's what I was dealing with.
Good stuff. Well, we will be back at second intermission. Maybe we'll get another great story from Bundy about his former teammates and his playing days. And we'll have intern Andrew trivia at second intermission. We'll break down the second period for you as well here on the Press Row Show. So be sure to check back right at intermission, because what you get
Check
here,
Manic back.
what you get here, you do not get anywhere else.
Definitely not.
For Bundy, for Andrew, I'm Anthony. We'll see you at second intermission.
Idris Elba meme. I want you to put the word out there that we back up.
What the hell are you saying?
I'm quoting The Wire. We are back in the Press Row Show. A lot to unpack with that period. 5 goals between the two teams. First one coming just 28 seconds into the period. And I do think congratulations are in order. First career NHL goal for Emile Andre there. And
Not that anybody saw it on the replay. Every camera angle was fooled on the play.
Yeah, he ended up. They got the side view of the net. We didn't really get the look at him shooting.
I don't know what it showed on television, but every replay they showed here in the arena, all we saw was Hathaway's first effort, and the puck, kicks out on the rebound, and no camera guy, none of the 3 angles we saw, followed the puck to Emile Andre. So we never saw it other than it going into the back of the net. But you're right. Congrats to Emile Andre. First NHL goal is an exciting thing.
And then it kind of went downhill from there.
Well, you had the Mishkov goal.
True.
And then he made a really nice play on that, too. Like, he first made a really great pass, and then Samsonov makes a save. And then it's just kind of like a scrum in front, and he just kept circling the net and comes out in front into the slot, and the puck pops to him and takes a nice shot. So those are your 2 positives from the period.
The other negative is Jack Eichel.
He's on one tonight.
Boy, he's really turned it on that second period. The goal, the shot that he scored on to make it 3-1 was just unbelievable shot. Right-handed shot. He snapped that far side so quick, no goalie would have had a chance on it. That's where the wheels came off a little bit for the Flyers. I'm going to say they're not off. They still have the lead. They were able to regain a goal, but then they scored again right after that. Eichel makes a beautiful play on a broken 2-on-2, if you will, and then the puck scored it back over, and he fired the puck back over. I forget the goal scorer right now.
Ivan Barbashev.
Barbashev, yeah.
Yep.
And that was a beautiful goal, and then the Flyers ended up getting it back. Mishkov, where the Flyers controlled the play in the offensive zone, and there was a leaky puck in front of the net. Vegas defense couldn't secure it. Mishkov was right there on the doorstep. That gives you an idea, a little bit of sample size again of what his goal scoring prowess is. He's in the right place at the right time. That's a goal scorer's goal.
The puck finds him.
Puck found him. That's what happened. And so he was right on the doorstep. That gave the Flyers 4-2. And then it went back to a Vegas power play and another quick shot taken, one-timer from the side. Theodore passed the puck over. The Vegas player beat Fedotov short side. Did not like that goal at all. Got to stop that. There's only one angle that puck can go, and that's the short side, and he wasn't able to secure the angle. So we got 4-3 at the end of 2 periods for the Flyers, but this game is wide open at this point.
Yeah, that was a little bit of what your former coach, Ken Hitchcock, used to call pond hockey.
That was pond hockey, yeah, and that coach is not going to like that because it opened up too much. I thought the Flyers have been really good offensively in this game. They maybe not a ton of shots to show for it, but the chances have been there. They've had puck possession in the zone. They're making Vegas chase around the offensive zone, and they've had their way with them. That being said, Vegas has also had some good offense, and they really kind of took over in that period, Anthony, I thought, in terms of getting pucks back down towards the net, making life difficult on the Flyers' defense, and Eichel's been absolutely sensational.
And it's funny how that happens, too, Bundy, because at 3-0, Vegas looked like a team that didn't even want to be here.
Right.
And then they get the first goal, and from that point on, it was like, oh, we're still in this thing. And then they all of a sudden turned it on and were really, really good. And the Flyers had very few answers for them. I don't think Ilya Samsonov has had a really good game in goal for Vegas. He's actually been pretty bad. That said, he made 2 saves in the final minute and a half of the period that maybe could ice this game.
Owen Tippett, one of them.
One of them was Owen Tippett, yeah.
The half breakaway,
yeah. Just really. And the other was Sanheim, right?
Sanheim on that, little back door where Farabee ended up making it. It was a broken play. He's able to chip it to Sanheim. Sanheim went in, did not score, but good play nonetheless.
Yeah, to his credit, he made a couple saves that has kept Vegas in this game as well. So, but yeah, just kind of I don't know, it was a weird period for me. Like, you like some of the things, like you said, you like some of the things that you're seeing, but you also don't like the fact that they gave up as many chances as they did as well, especially when they were such a good checking and defensive team in the first
period. Yep.
Right?
Yeah. I don't want to say a complete switch, but the Flyers can't make the illusion that a good offensive scheme makes up defensively. And so again, that's a little bit of their identity they're trying to figure out, I think, because they did a much better job that period in the offensive zone. I love the way they possessed the puck. They hung on to the puck. They were patient in them trying to assess offensively what was there for them. But again, the good teams are the ones that are able to press offensively and then just absolutely lock it down defensively. Maybe there's not as many teams in the league as I think there are that can play like that, but that's the model. Good offense, and then when you're playing defensively, retransition quickly again, back up to good offense again. And the Flyers were good in the first period, not so good in the second.
Do you have any interest in this Tony Louis question here? With Andre cementing a spot on the team and Grans moving up the depth chart, does that mean Zamula will be waived when Drysdale comes back?
I still think that ultimately you're liking, while you like what you see out of Helge Grans, I still think the fact that he can be sent down as part of the numbers game is a game that the Flyers will play until they get to a point where they are going to be trading Rasmus Ristolainen, for example, right? I think that it's one of those things where it's okay to send a guy back down and say, look, you did nothing wrong, you were great. You'll be back later this season, and if there's an injury, he'll be the first call up, of course. But that way you don't lose Zamula, right? And that's the reason you're doing it. Is you're just saying you don't want to just put a guy on waivers just because you like a way a guy's played for 5 games.
Right. No, you got to be very, very sure of what you're doing. Because,
right.
Yeah. Any word on Drysdale, Anthony?
No, and that's the thing. And Bundy, I would say that if Russ were here tonight, I maybe would have had an opportunity to go ask a couple questions about that, but pregame. But we had to stick on. I had to stay on the air, otherwise it would have
been me by myself.
We got
intern Andrew alone would have been a problem.
Sick people all over the place here tonight.
Yeah, so
I would have just turned into a Penn State football recap.
I will try to get an answer for that at some point. But I'm a little worried about that, Bundy. Again, we were kind of told that his injury was not a major injury, one that he could have played through in like an important time of year. And now he's missed 6 games, 7 games, whatever it is. It seems to be going on a lot longer than it should. He's been back at practice. He's been out of the no contact jersey for a little bit the last few days.
So is it possible to say maybe he's healthy and the coach is just saying let's leave him out of the lineup?
I mean, is it possible? Yes, but the Flyers can't say that if that's the case.
Right, they cannot say that.
Because he would have to come off of IR, and if he comes off of IR, then they have to make a roster spot available.
Right.
So I mean,
I would have a hard time thinking that would be what went on, but
yeah.
I mean, only because you got to give a guy more rope than that, especially considering the trade you made for him, right? Like he ended up being the feature.
Was that in a second-round pick for Cutter Gauthier?
Yeah, so I mean that to some degree that has to work out, and I ask you because I don't know. Yeah, he's been available to practice, but then not being able to be part of the games again. Maybe Torch just likes what he sees on the ice right now and doesn't want to change it.
Yeah, but that can only go so long, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't know how it works with the league. Like I don't know. Like it's like we've seen so many conversations about this in the NBA about how. Are players really hurt? Are the teams just, hiding, like faking injuries so that they can give them load management and rest them? I mean, I don't know what goes on in the NHL as far as that detailed kind of situation. And the funny thing is, of any sport, this as somebody who's done it, guys play through stuff.
Guys will play. There's a difference between being hurt and being injured.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's a huge difference.
Yes.
What's the most in pain you've ever been while playing in a game?
My shoulder. I had a shoulder. I had my one playoff in 2000. I had a needle in my deep in my shoulder. What at about probably 4 inches before every game, and he'd move the needle around in there just to get my shoulder good enough to play in the game.
Ugh.
But it was ugly. That needle, it numbed it, but putting that needle in at first was just brutal. But I wouldn't have been able to play without it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Well, that's a good kind of a little bit of a transition before we get to your trivia question.
Okay.
We did have a request, and I don't know if you've thought of one, but we had a request at the very end of last period because you told a great Roman Czechmanic story at the end of last period.
Yep.
And we had a request from one of our regular listeners who had asked, I want to hear a good Jeremy Roenick story at second intermission. So I thought I'd throw it back to you, Bundy. Do you have a good JR story, especially just recently put into the Hockey Hall of Fame, thanked you in his speech? You have a good funny JR story that you can tell, because let's be honest. There are dozens that you cannot tell.
There's the ones I can tell and the ones I can't tell. Like, there's more I can't tell than I can.
Just so people know.
One night we played Anaheim. One night we played at Anaheim one night. I think we lost. Hitchcock was a coach. And
oh boy.
It was we JR, I don't know how he did it, but he rented a car to go back to the the hotel in Santa Monica.
Uh-huh.
And JR was just livid. So we got in the car and drove back, and he decided it would be a good idea to stop at Hollywood Park. So we stopped at Hollywood Park, and we got hold on one sec. So we got the Hollywood Park, and of course there's nothing racing, but they had the casinos open.
And that's all that mattered.
That's all that mattered.
That's all that mattered. Andrew, we're going to bump you for a second.
Oh boy.
Brian, can you come over here just for a second? We'll talk about your book. Yeah.
Go over there.
Did I send you a book yet?
What's that?
Did I give you a book yet?
I didn't get one yet. No. Did you
We're about to bring on Brian Propp.
You want to come and talk about this proper? Your book?
Sure.
Yeah.
Come on down here.
Come around the other side. Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, we're going to bring Brian Propp on the show here. This is spontaneous, and we'll just bring him on.
You got an angle on my wing.
Yep.
We put this just
There
like
we
that.
go.
There we go. We got Brian Propp, the great Brian Propp, Hall of Famer, Flyer
Check it
Hall
out.
of Famer, Brian Propp. We got Angel on My Wing, which is a new book. I know what it's like to have a new book. Mine came out 2 years ago. Proper, how's it going with the sale? Congratulations.
Well, it was my first night signing at the Wells Fargo Center tonight, so it went pretty good, and so I'm happy to say that I'm excited about it. But it really helps a lot of people who have strokes and how they can recover from that.
I was talking with Wayne Fish before the game, and he's saying that sales are going very well for you guys right now.
Yeah, everything's online, but being here for the next month, I'll be with some flyer games and signing up for there, and I have other events that I go to. So it's just exciting, but I'm happy to be alive and doing well, and you never know what's going to happen from there.
And so, how many times are you going to be doing this? Do you know? Like, is it every home game for the next month, or?
I think that I've got something set up for like the 8th and the 12th.
Okay.
Because the 5th. I have a signing for Jersey Man at Live Casino before the Flyers game.
Right.
But that's probably the 8th and the 12th.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I know all about the gentleman you worked with, Wayne Fish, on the book. He did my book, wrote the book with me as well. So, and I know what it's like to have a self-help book proper too, to try to tell people your story, coming through what you went through. Same with mine, with my addiction to alcohol, and the fight that I've had and what I had to do, and the courage that it takes for somebody to come out the other side. So, really proud of you, buddy, for doing this and getting the message out to the public. Super important. So thank you.
Well, it's been 9 years since my stroke, but I've come a long way from that. Like, I couldn't talk at all at the start, so I've come a long way. Done a lot of things to help my rehab, and so I'm just happy to be alive and doing as well as I am.
No, you sound fantastic, because I remember the last time we had you on Snow the Goalie was about 4 years ago. And you were still going through it at that point, and from where you were then to where you are now, it's fascinating. It's amazing.
Yeah. So my wife has a business called Prime Hydration and Wellness in Marlton.
I got to come to that too.
Yeah.
I've meaning to come a million times, Brian.
Yeah. So we have one on the 14th signing there in the afternoon, and then I did some NAD treatments. It makes a big difference. Replaces all the cells in your body when you're older and gets better. But for my hand, I noticed that it's not as much swelling with that, and more alert, and I can speak much better.
It's fantastic.
Good
it's
stuff,
great
Proper.
Angel on My Wing, Brian Propp and Wayne
Get
Fish.
right here, guys.
Make sure you guys go out, get it on Amazon, or if you're coming down to the game.
Amazon, yeah. Prism Books.
Yeah.
Also, Triumph Books.
Triumph Books.
Yeah.
Triumph Books.
And also in Canada, it's Indigo.
Yeah. Okay. And okay, there you go.
Yeah.
And then if you're coming down, make sure you stop by. Where are you at on the concourse when you do it, so people know?
We were section 113.
Okay, on the concourse though,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
One section outside section 113.
Yeah.
Flyers legend.
Proper, thanks, buddy.
Brian Propp.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for stopping by. It's good
Thanks
to
for
see you,
coming
my
on.
friend.
Good luck, Proper. It's going to do great. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The best, Brian Propp.
All right, we got our intern trivia right now.
It's coming
we?
up. Yeah, intern
trivia.
trivia's coming over. He'll come over. Just let him and Proper switch spots.
Good stuff. Good for Brian. Good job, and he's gone through a lot with that stroke and came out the other side beautifully.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Andrew. We only have 2 minutes, so this better be a quick guess. A couple quick guesses.
I think you guys will get it actually pretty quickly.
Okay.
So if you remember when Vegas entered the league, they did that expansion draft. So the other 30 teams were allowed to protect a certain amount of players. Anyone that wasn't protected, Vegas could get one player from each team. So the one player that they picked up from the Flyers was Pierre-Edouard Bellemare.
I thought that was going to be the trivia question. I knew the answer.
No. As it stands right now, he is number 2 on the all-time scoring list among French-born players. Do you know who number 1 is?
Pierre Turgeon?
No.
That is
Mario Lemieux?
That's not an easy question.
Not French-Canadian.
Not French. Yeah, France. From France, right? Like
French. You said French-born player. Mario Lemieux.
just any name that sounds French. Wow, that's a tough question, Andrew.
I thought you would know this.
It's a French guy in the league, right? History of the league?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Wow.
He played mostly for Dallas.
Played mostly for Dallas.
Oh, I know who it is. That little, remember the little Roussel? Roussel?
Antoine Roussel.
Antoine Roussel.
Oh, how about that? That's a tough question.
It's a good question. Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a tough question.
Antoine Roussel. He was a real pain in the ass.
Yeah,
remember?
I never would have gotten that. I really wouldn't have, because I didn't know that he was, off the top of my head, that he was from France. That's a good question.
It's a good intermission.
Right,
Great
good.
trivia. We had Brian Propp stop up and see us. We still got the trivia in, and we got a wild, hopefully, third period ahead of us, guys.
It's going to be wild.
Which I love, because nothing like having to change your story on deadline yet again. So I'm hoping that this game wraps up in the first 10 minutes somehow, so that I can be a contributor to the post game.
Let's get a couple quick goals here if you're the Flyers.
Yes, that's what I'm rooting for.
6-3 final, maybe.
That's what I'm rooting for.
I said 4-3 Flyers. Final. I'm sticking with it, baby.
Stick with it. You're the only one who's got a shot at
That's
that.
it.
You're the
Let's
only one who's got a shot.
Let's do it.
All right, we'll see you guys for post game.
All right. We're back in the Press Row Show. Post-game, Flyers lose in a shootout to Vegas Golden Knights. That makes them 3-2 on the year in shootouts. I'll tell you what, nobody loves the games that go to overtime and shootouts more than Anthony when he has to write for the Associated Press. But
you won't say much this post-game. We're going to sit here looking at this beauty in the middle, though, as we share our thoughts and insights on the wonderful hockey game that was the Vegas Knights and the Philadelphia Flyers here in Philadelphia tonight.
Quick post-game, and then we'll put a bow on this, and then we'll move on.
So just to breaking down that game, so the Flyers had a 3-0 lead in this hockey game. They ended up falling 5-4 to Vegas. That is a brutal loss for me tonight because I was the only one, I think, that picked the Flyers to win the game. They should have won the game. 3-0. Vegas got one back, and Vegas ended up getting a goal back. And from that point on, it seesawed a little bit. It went 3-2 for the Flyers, and then it went 4-2. And then Vegas was able to tie the baby back up again on a couple of good plays. It's the fourth goal that Vegas got when they were trailing 4-3. That was not a good goal.
It was pretty fluky, right?
Awful goal by Fedotov's got to make that stop. It's not a hard enough stop or a hard enough shot in that moment that you can't make the save. You have to make that save. If there's any goal in the game, let the other ones in, that's fine, but that's the puck that has to be stopped, and it wasn't. And then and I thought like the Flyers again, I thought Sanheim played really well again. I thought Konechny had some mojo. Couturier played well tonight. Farabee was okay. Frost I thought was okay as well.
Torts benched him for a couple of shifts.
Yeah, the best he did. The best player on the ice tonight was Eichel. And
I think he has to be the first star, right?
I would have to think so. He had the only goal in the shootout, and he had.
Although I'll tell you what, as bad as Samsonov was for the first,
he could easily be a star in this game.
38 minutes of the game, he was sensational from the last 2 minutes of the second period all the way through till the shootout.
Yeah, Ryan A. Samsonov was unbelievable after the fourth goal, made some 10-bell saves. The save on Sanheim in the overtime period, the glove save was unbelievable, and that was right after Sanheim had just drawn the penalty. So Sanheim was very, very much alive in that overtime period.
He's been really good.
You know what, Bundy? The defense for the Flyers was very active in this game.
I thought they were great tonight. The defense. I mean, how many times have we said that in the last 7 years? You know, I thought they moved the puck well. I thought they jumped into seams really well. I thought they did a good job of keeping pucks in. Moving the puck out tonight. I thought they moved the puck as well as I've seen them move in quite some time tonight. So, I mean, kudos to the Flyers' defense. 4 goals again in a game like that against is too many. You want to lock things down, especially with a 3-0 lead. But as me and Anthony told you, it used to be the 2-goal lead was the worst lead in hockey. It's now the 3-goal lead.
I can't believe that they did this again. Because remember, they did this in the San Jose game as well. They were up 3-0 in that game, and they choked that away as well. At least that one,
they hung on to win that
They
one,
managed to win. That, ironically, also went to a shootout, but still. And you gave the listeners fair warning. Like, this can't keep happening.
You know, it's really funny.
It's not good.
You don't see a lot of games where you actually have the worst player on the ice turn into the best player on the ice after the fourth goal. Samsonov. He was the difference. He was. I mean, the Flyers, they were badly outshot, the Flyers, at the end of the second period, and the Flyers ended up outshooting the Golden Knights in this hockey game. So they had a great third period in the overtime
36 to
frame.
30.
Yeah, and that's a lot considering Vegas, I think, had like a 27 to maybe 15 advantage or something like that. It might have been less than that for the Flyers. But they came on really strong, and Samsonov, to give him credit, he made some saves. I mean, he was getting dogged by everybody here on our comments and people in the building, and it was a game that the Flyers someone asked, is it a game that they choked or is it a good win by Vegas? A little bit of both. But the Flyers, to their credit, they didn't quit. They didn't quit at all. They kept staying with the game plan, and they didn't change, and they didn't go into a deep, dark hole because Vegas came back. They stayed with it. They still tried to materialize some goals and offensive chances, and they did that.
So we talked about Morgan Frost a little bit, and like I said, I think he was a little bit in Torts' doghouse. He missed a couple of shifts after he missed the net on the power play in the third period.
That happens. I mean, yeah. I mean, if that's why he ended up on the bench after that, I mean, that's kind of crazy because he ended up getting a chance.
Only his second multi-point game of the season. He had an assist. Goal and assist.
I was just
Morgan
about to say
Frost
that,
did, yeah. He had 1-on-1. Yeah, I mean, what more do you want?
But boy, did he miss the game winner on that power play.
Wide open net. It was a cross seam pass, perfect. Boom, just nice right speed for a hard one-timer, and that's usually just drilled home. You hardly even have to touch that puck. You just got to snap it. Just a quick snapshot goes right in the net, and he wound up and missed it by about 2 feet on the inside, on the near side shot.
With that said, him having a goal tonight and an assist, and with Owen Tippett struggling as much as he has been, somebody brought it up.
He's his own worst enemy.
Somebody brought it up in the comments. they're very, very displeased with Torch's decision to have Tippett be the third shooter and not Morgan Frost in the shootout. Do you put any thought
who
into
said that?
Someone in the chat.
Well, that's their opinion. I mean,
I'm asking your opinion.
No, I think he's fine shooting it.
Okay.
I had no problem with him shooting it. You got to get a guy going somehow, and you're trying to get this guy going and get him reeling a little bit. I think certainly he's done. You got to be able to find a way for him to score. So if you can get him going in a shootout where he comes out after feeling good about himself, that's great. It's a good strategy by the coach, but man, I'll tell you what, in the game itself, like I don't know what he's doing sometimes. Like he'll have a shot, he'll miss it by 12 feet.
Yeah, it's
not even close. I don't know. Mike Bossy, the great Mike Bossy of the New York Islanders, used to score 50 goals perennially. They used to ask him, "Why are you so good at sniping? Why are you just such an unbelievable goal scorer?" He says, "You know what I do? I aim for the middle of the guy's pads every single time I shoot. Right, 5-hole, middle of the net." And he goes, "Most of the time I miss. But he hits the net."
That's good. It's a good strategy.
And he hits the net. Because you're right. You're not going to aim every time the middle of the net. You're going to hit it. It's going to go wide. It's going to go short. It's going to do something. It's going to hit something. And that's why Mike Bossy piled up as many goals as he did in his career.
Speaking of the shootout attempt, any thoughts on what the heck Travis Konechny was doing on his shootout attempt? That was one of the worst shootout efforts by an individual I think I've ever seen.
You know what happened? He handcuffed himself. He came in. He probably had an idea what he wanted to do. And then he realized, it's not going to work. I don't have my angle. And he ran out of real estate. And he ended up stick handling the puck right into the guys. See ya, Todd. Todd Fedoruk.
Oh, Friggy
leaving the building.
Like,
Elvis has left the building.
Who are you talking?
You were in the middle of a sentence, and I was waiting for you to finish it.
I don't even remember what I was saying anymore. There's too many goals in this game.
Konechny in the
Oh,
shootout.
he ran out of real estate. Yeah, he ran out of time and space of what he wanted to do, and then he just basically stick handled it into Samsonov. It happens. I mean, guys get creative, and sometimes he was overthinking it, and I know exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, I want to do this play, or he had something from the sheet that they looked at before the game. If you got to a shootout with Samsonov, they'll give you a breakdown of where his weaknesses are. And I think TK wanted to do something, but he realized that angle wasn't available to him.
Did it seem like, and you talk about that,
See ya, Mike.
having that game plan against the goalie for the shootout? Do you get a sense that there was a thought that take it really slow against this guy and maybe try and get him to bite first? Because I felt like all three guys actually came into the zone kind of meandering with the puck and not really, coming at him hard to take a shot.
Did you notice the one goal that was scored in the shootout? It was the one goal that nobody tried to deke.
Crazy, right?
Isn't that funny how that works, huh?
He just got to his credit, at least beat the goalie. He just didn't beat the post.
He rang it off the post.
Yeah, that was a nice shot by Mishkov. Yeah, but still,
he had a pretty solid game today.
He did. He's one of those guys, the puck follows him around. Yeah. And it's going to get even better when he gets older and he starts to learn the league more and get his tendencies set.
Michkov, by the way, with the goal tonight, 17 points for him in his first 20 games. Becomes the 9th Flyers rookie to ever do that, in the first one since James Van Riemsdyk in the 2009-10 season.
Okay.
He's off to a flying start,
off to a
as
very
they
good
say.
start. Yeah, no doubt.
The one other thing that I wanted to mention, then we'll talk about whatever the next game is. I forgot to look up who it was.
Wednesday in Nashville.
That's right. Yes, another winnable game. Garnet Hathaway, with I think like 16 minutes left in the third period, ended up blocking a shot from point-blank range, and I think it got him in the hand or the wrist. Immediately had to go back to the tunnel. Classic Garnet Hathaway fashion. He was back on the bench in 5 minutes. That guy is such a gamer. I like him a lot. I think he's pretty big for them because I think the Flyers' biggest strength probably is their penalty kill. Hathaway's a guy that they definitely would need out there. He didn't get a ton of playing time in the third period, but I was glad to see that he was able to make it back to the bench at least.
Yeah. Hathaway did come back, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good news. That's good news. So they're down in Nashville at 8:00 p.m. Eastern time start on Wednesday. And then the big, beautiful, busy game of the year, Friday, Black Friday game. That's 1:00.
Do you want to make
New
another
York Rangers?
Do you want to make another call to action like you did last year, so that for the Flyers fans to show up for that game, so that we're not overrun by Rangers fans again?
Well, I mean, we always tell them, but show up, please. Buy your tickets for that game, so we don't get these stinkball Ranger fans coming down here. Most of them don't shower; they smell. Just awful.
It is awful. It is awful.
They can't go. The worst part is, like, listen, we're going to pick on New York. Whatever, let's do it.
Go ahead. It's New York.
It's New York. Whatever. it's such a cruel place to have a home team that's your favorite team. You can't even go to a game there. Like, if you're a Ranger fan and you're like some 10-year-old kid, you're like, hey, Dad, can you take me to the game?
Nope.
The father's like, sorry, dude, I'm not getting a bonus this year for that. It's insane prices. It's crazy to get there. So what do? They drive 90 minutes down the turnpike, hop on 76, and drive into Philly. Unfortunately, Anthony, I wish there was a way to rectify this, and it will come when the Flyers really turn the corner, like, fully. But unfortunately, I think we're going to be stuck with blue shirts in here on Friday, regardless of the situation.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're going to see some, too. I mean, a lot, too. I don't know. I think Russ said 60-40 Flyers fans.
Yeah.
I think that's about right. I think it might be a little bit more Philadelphia fans, maybe like 65-35, but I think he's pretty close.
Yeah, and the Rangers fans, they're all bummed out on their team right now, too. They thought they'd have, like, just complete march through the early part of the season. They have not had that happen.
No. You know what? New York hasn't won a darn thing in any sport in forever. I think the last time might have been the Giants Super Bowl.
Was that the last New York championship?
Probably, yeah. Knicks haven't won in forever.
Knicks
you don't have to mention the Knicks. You don't have to mention the Nets or the Knicks.
Rangers, Devils, Islanders.
Yeah, so it would have been that 2011 Giants.
Would have been the Yankees if they'd won
Yankees
this year.
09, but I think the Giants has been since then, right?
I think it's the Giants.
And not the Mets. I think it's the Giants.
2011 Giants that beat that.
The Jets haven't won anything, right? You have 9 teams, and they can't win.
The Jets have not won anything.
All right, well, if nothing else, Bundy, the 5-game homestand over now, and of the 10 points, they got exactly what you predicted. They got
5 points. Yeah.
So we'll go from here.
500 hockey.
500 hockey.
Only problem with that is it's not going to get you anywhere. Like, you got to climb, right? But it is what it is. Like 5 points in 5 games.
Well, it starts Wednesday. Playing a bad team, so got to win that. And then one other thing, we actually got a super chat during the first period, I think, and I kept forgetting to bring it up. It was very nice. Slinger's Broad Street Bar. Happy Thanksgiving to Andrew Bundy, Russ, and your families. Let's go Flyers.
Thanks,
that was
Slinger.
Very nice.
Awesome. And my favorite part about that is his logo, his photo on YouTube is Bundy.
That's our buddy Rick Genslinger. He lives out in the Reading, Pennsylvania area. He has got absolutely the most incredible, beautiful Flyers-themed sports bar. I've used it as my background before.
Oh, that's what that is?
That's what that is. That's Slinger's Bar. Yeah, it's something. It's something to see. And I'd love to.
There it is.
If we keep doing this down the road, I'd love to. There's Slinger's Bar, in the background right there. You could just see the unbelievable stuff. The only thing he doesn't have, I got to get him a stick or something. He doesn't have any of my memorabilia. So maybe he doesn't want any.
I would take it. All right, I'm good if you are.
Yeah, good job, guys.
All right, so we're back here Black Friday, right?
1 o'clock. Well, 12:30 we'll be on the air, but yes, Black Friday afternoon.
All right.
Sounds good. And happy Thanksgiving, everybody, to our fans. And you guys are like family to us. We love having you on the show, and I feel like we know each and every one of you. So happy Thanksgiving to you, your families, loved ones, and have a wonderful day. And we'll see you back here on Friday afternoon at 12:30.
All right, we're signing off. Go Flyers.
Go Flyers.